yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Well, the committee does have a great tradition of bipartisanship. It's hard to get partisan about our crumbling infrastructure and the needs for enhanced investment. But one of the keys toward enhancing the investment and dealing with the $68 billion backlog of authorized core projects, $68 billion, is to use a tax which is collected from shippers and passed on to the American people. Every day you buy a good from a foreign country, you're paying a little bit more for that under an agreement that the money collected would be used to maintain our harbors, our ports, keep from silting in and construct critical infrastructure. Unfortunately, for years, Congress has been diverting part of that money every year. Today, there is a theoretical balance of over $9 billion in the non-existent Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. Look through the entire budget of the United States. You won't find that money anywhere on deposit. But they're saying, oh, don't worry, we'll get around to spending it someday. I've been working on this issue for 20 years, starting with Bud Schuster in 1996. It was in the bill, and it passed out of committee unanimously, with a number, with Republicans and Democrats supporting it, obviously a majority of Republicans on the bill. The chairman and I had an agreement that would bring this bill forward under a suspension of the rules. His leadership objected to that. And then instead, they dictated there should be a rule so that they could strip out the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. Now, what kind of rule is it that says we passed a law, we're collecting money from the American people every day, they're paying a little bit more for stuff, but the rules say we can't spend that money for its lawful purpose, we're going to spend it on some other part of government or disappear it into illusory deficit reduction. We need that money. We need those investments. And if this continues, right now it's about $400 million a year that's being collected that isn't being spent, yet we have harbors shoaled in, we have jetties that are failing all across America. It'll grow up to $20 billion in 10 years. Now, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, we're going to fix this problem. No, this was the time to fix it. It was in the bill, it was bipartisan, it was unanimous, and it was stripped out. That is very, very unfortunate. There are many good things in this bill. There are many projects that are essential. But again, the Corps of Engineers has a $68 billion backlog, so all we're doing is putting people in an endless line. $68 billion backlog. We're collecting about $1.6 billion a year to make those projects a reality, except that $500 million of it is being diverted over into other parts of the government. That is not a good way to run the government like a business. I have a letter from the Chamber of Commerce of the United States of America concerned that this money is revenue from American business is not being used for its intended purpose in a timely manner, and they will continue to advocate for this provision, among others. So I'm very saddened that this was removed from the bill. It's not in the Senate bill, so it becomes non-conferenceable, which means it'll be at least 2 years. That's another $800 or $1 billion that won't be spent, but taxes will still be collected from the American people. Secondly, we've made a big deal around here about not having any earmarks. Big deal. Well, there are some ancient earmarks out there still lingering in the darkness. One was for a $220 million project, which was earmarked in 2004 by the Appropriations Committee. But this bill, and that would have required the federal government to spend $110 million. This bill authorizes that project at a price of $526,500,000 to the U.S. taxpayers. It's gone from 220 earmark, 110 to the feds, to a total project cost of $800 million. Now, associated with that, now I'm being told, don't worry, this isn't federal money. Well, whenever you enter into a project, you have to have a local cost share. And they're saying, well, it'll only be local money, except it's included in the project, meaning the local entity isn't meeting its cost share for the authorized project, which is in this bill. In fact, they are diverting money locally from their cost share into recreation projects. Now, we have harbors silting in, jetties that are falling apart all across the country. We're diverting money from the trust fund, and yet somehow we're going to find $500 million for this project, up from a price tag of $110 when it was first earmarked. And it isn't earmarked by any other name except that it's covered by the rule, and it's in this bill. So I regret that this bill does not meet the high standards of the committee and the historical standards of the committee. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.